Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Mitesh Khatri. I'm a leadership trainer, motivational speaker, and a national best-selling author of 2 books. The first one, Awaken the Leader in You, and as you probably know, every Monday we do a video here on leadership in English, and on Fridays we do a video in Hindi on my second book, The Law of Attraction, right? So we are here back for understanding what is leadership. We've already done a couple of videos Mondays on what leadership is, what kind of a person leader is. To give you a quick brief, what is leadership? Leadership is the ability to influence people towards a common goal or a common culture. What kind of a person a leader is? A leader is a great human being and a big thinker, all right? So we've covered that in detail in the last couple of videos. If you've not seen that already, just go to the videos over there. I'll put the link in the description so you can have a look at it, okay? Now today, what are we covering? Whenever I go to corporate workshops, I'm here in SBI today doing a workshop in Calcutta on leadership again. And whenever we talk about leadership in a workshop, a lot of leaders ask me, how do we give the leadership behavior to our team members? Because we tell our team members to do something, for a few days they do it, and then the behavior reverses again because they're not able to sustain that behavior. So what gives people the ability to become a leader and sustain leadership behavior for a long period of time? So let's understand that. Think about it. If you try to teach people many aspects of a leader's behavior, there are infinite things that you can teach people, right? But how do you teach so many things to people? So there has to be one thing which gives people an inside-out learning about their behavior in the area of leadership, right? So here's a very important learning in the area of leadership. Identity. That's right. Write this word down. Identity. In Hindi, you can call it pehchan. So let me give you a little theory here first. The strongest force in human psychology is to be in alignment with one's own identity. Let me say that again. Probably say it with me. Come on. The strongest force in human psychology is to be in alignment with one's own identity, right? So let me give you a couple of examples for that. If I believe I'm lazy, then that's my identity. Now, the strongest force in my psychology is always going to be in alignment with one's own identity, which my own identity. In this case, if I say I'm lazy and if I believe that identity about myself, no matter how much people try and train me and convince me and change my behaviors, but if that's my identity, internally, my identity is always going to force me to become what? Lazy, because that's what I believe, right? If my identity is that I'm a mother, or I'm a father, or I'm a boss, or I'm a colleague, or I'm a businessman, then that identity teaches you from inside out to behave in a certain way. Because there are so many things that are required to become a father, right? But once you believe that you are a father, and that is why you'll observe that a lot of people don't have a certain maturity like a father does until they really have a child. Why? Because the moment they have a child, they take up this identity and they believe that I'm a father now, I'm a parent now. And the moment they become that parent in their mind as an identity, their behavior starts from there. They become a completely different person after that. Ask yourself, have you had this experience? Probably if you're a parent. The day you came to know that you are going to have a child, did that bring a lot of changes in your behavior? I'm sure it did, right? Why? Because identity has a great impact, which means how you see yourself, who you call yourself. Your identity has a great impact on how you behave in your life. So when we talk about leadership, there are two identities which are very critical that people need to understand. The first identity is the identity which is anti-leadership, or what I also call as being a common human being. It's not wrong, it is just being a normal person, a common human being. The second identity is the leadership identity. Let's understand the difference between that. The first identity is called as the employee mindset. The employee mindset or the employee identity. These are people who work in an organization believing that they're doing a job. And they see themselves not as businessmen, not as businesswomen, but they see themselves as employees who are doing a job. You know, some of you would say, but Mitesh, if I'm doing a job, wouldn't I see myself as an employee? Well, not necessarily. Haven't you met people in organizations who are doing a job and yet they work as if that company belongs to them? They work as if they are not doing a job at all. They are into a business. They completely own that organization like it's theirs because they're not doing a job. They're doing a business in their mind, right? So that's the second identity. It's called the business identity, or in my language, I call it the entrepreneur identity. So the first identity, like I said, is called the employee identity. And the second one is what? It's called the entrepreneur identity. Now, if a person has an employee identity, he believes that I'm doing a job, then this is how the definition goes as far as I'm concerned. And it doesn't only apply to organizations, it applies to every area of our life as an identity. Here's the identity. Take your right hand like this and say this with me. Oh, come on, participate with me. Take your right hand like this and say this with me. This doesn't belong to me. That's the definition of an employee identity, because whenever I work in an area like an employee, which means the definition is I only work here, this doesn't belong to me, there's a completely different behavior that comes out of a human being with that identity. Whereas the second identity, which is the entrepreneur identity, it's more like this belongs to me. Come on, take your right hand with me, participate with me. This belongs to me. When a person says that and believes that, they work from that identity of this is mine, right? And then the sense of ownership in that area is humongous, it's huge. And that sense of ownership brings an inside out learning of leadership behaviors. And then a lot of things people will not have to teach you. The qualities like being proactive, qualities like being serious about your job, qualities like falling in love with your work. These are qualities that all leaders have, right? But how do they get that? It's the source is the identity. If I believe the company belongs to me and I'm not doing a job, I'm doing a business, that identity will give you leadership behaviors which you'll be surprised. Where did you learn them? Because you don't have to learn them from outside. They just come from within you. Let me give you a good example of that. This is one person I knew who was doing a business, and yet he failed in his business. And the more research I did with him, the more survey I did with him, the more I questioned him, I realized that the way he was treating his customers, the way he was treating his colleagues was more like an employee identity, which means what? He actually didn't take enough ownership in his business because his business was brought up by his father. And because of that, he always saw his business as his father's business. He never really saw it as his baby, right? And because of that, he didn't treat his team members, his employees with respect. So even though by position he was doing a job, but what's his mindset in my definition? It's more of an employee identity. What is an employee identity? Someone who's doing a job in their mind. And how do you define that? This doesn't belong to me, right? Let's take another couple of examples there. What if I take a citizen's example? Two citizens walking in India on the road. One thinking like an employee, the other thinking like an entrepreneur. The one who's thinking like an employee is thinking, this doesn't belong to me. So this person's going to break signals, he's going to honk on the road, he's not going to be concerned about the citizens on the road, he's not going to be thinking about the solutions for the country, he's not going to pay his taxes on time. Why? Because this person only thinks about himself. Employee identity. Employees only think about themselves. They don't think about the entire organization. They don't think about the thing that they're working with, because they see it as something that they're working for, not working with. So employee identity doesn't only have to apply in organizations. It can even apply in your personal life, in your professional life, or even in your life as a citizen of this country. Ask yourself, do you own this country as if it's yours? Or do you work here as if you just stay here, right? Do you have a sense of pride of being an Indian, or do you just live here like a citizen, like a guest? The second identity would be the entrepreneur identity of a citizen, which means the citizen now says, this country belongs to me. It's my country. Now, the behaviors are completely different of a human being like this. This person will not honk on the road because he believes that this is my country and I want to create a certain culture over here. See, this is leadership behavior. A leader thinks about being a role model. A leader thinks about not only himself, he thinks about everyone around him. And that is why this person will not break rules on the road, because he's trying to not only not break rules because he's trying to be a good person, but also because he's trying to be a role model for people around him, right? And a leader is a great human being. You remember that? It applies to this. And entrepreneurs are supposed to be great human beings. Think big. That's what kind of a person a leader is supposed to be. But for that, you need to believe in yourself that I'm not an employee, I'm an entrepreneur. When you start working like an entrepreneur, that identity will give you leadership behaviors that you've never thought you've practiced before. And suddenly there will be an inside-out learning in that area, right? So by the end of this video, I want to keep it short so that it makes sense to you every time. I'm trying to keep it about 10 or 11 minutes. So here's the quick question to you. Ask yourself, most people in our country work with which identity? The employee identity or the entrepreneur identity? I'm sure you know what the answer to this question is, right? Let's be honest about it. Most people in our country work with the employee identity because we've been probably taught, don't interfere with other people's work. Mind your own business. Now, maybe that's necessary when we were during the slavery time and we were under the Britishers, but now we're independent. We've grown up and we've evolved. It's time now to take ownership. So most people in the country are now transforming and moving towards, going from the employee identity, going towards the entrepreneur identity. And that's why a lot of people are becoming leaders now. Make sense? Right? So that's an example of leadership. So first question is, Around us, most people in our country are behaving right now more like what? Employee identity, but they're transforming towards entrepreneur identity. Here's the second question. If you're working for an organization or if you have your business of your own, ask yourself, most people around you in this organization work with which identity? Behave from which identity? Is it the employee identity or the entrepreneur identity? And again, you'll realize, unfortunately, most people behave from the employee behavior, the employee identity. They come late, they don't care about the work, they leave early, they blame each other. And if someone comes in and tells them that there's something wrong with their work, they're not open to take the feedback because they're not trying to excel at what they're doing, right? That's how they're behaving as employees. So the leadership behavior is missing over there. And why is the leadership behavior missing? Because the entrepreneur identity is missing. Make sense? So I've asked you two questions so far. Most people in our country right now are behaving more like what? Employee identity and transforming towards entrepreneur identity. Most people in your organization are behaving with which identity? Unfortunately, employee identity. Now ask yourself the most difficult question. Unconsciously, ask yourself, nobody does it consciously, ask yourself unconsciously, which identity have you been utilizing within yourself? Have you been working like an employee, where you believe you're just doing a job? Or have you been working like an entrepreneur, where you believe this company belongs to you? Think about it and be really honest with yourself. And you probably will realize that somewhere inside you, unconsciously, you've also been working like an employee. And if you are, then here's a small exercise that can help you transform that identity. Take a piece of paper and write down the answer to this question. What are my specific behaviors that I'm now realizing are employee behaviors? Write that down. So things like, I'm usually late, I don't get along with my boss, I don't invest money from my own salary in my personal training, I don't think about organization goals, I only think about my salary, my bonus, my goals, right? Those are employee behaviors. And there can be different examples relating to you, but just think about it and be honest with yourself and write that down. Why do you need to write that down? Because once you've identified that, now you can consciously choose to become an entrepreneur, right? So start with the declaration. Come on, declare with me. I am an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. I have a business of my own. Come on, say it with me. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business of my own. I am a leader. The moment you say that and the moment you declare that, ask yourself after you've written that employee behavior, if I truly choose to be an entrepreneur, and if I truly choose to be a leader, if I truly choose to be a person who's doing a business, what are going to be my new behaviors as an entrepreneur starting now? What's going to be my choice? And you'll realize that automatically, without someone helping you, you'll write down points which are everything to do with leadership behaviors. You'll think about writing things like, I'll be proactive, I'll be a role model for people, I will help my team members, and I will collaborate with everyone. Aren't these all leadership behaviors? They are, right? Why would you be able to suddenly think about all these points? And see, the idea is not only knowing these points, but suddenly realizing from within and feeling from within that you really want to apply these things. And why would you get that motivation? Because you've now got the identity. Remember, the strongest force in human psychology is to be in alignment with one's own identity. And the best identity that teaches us leadership is entrepreneur identity, which means the ownership identity. Work as if this place belongs to you. Now, when you apply that at home, or as a country, or as an organization, anywhere, that's what gives us the leadership behavior, right? So before I go away, I hope you do this exercise. I hope this video has served you so far. And I hope you not only practice this entrepreneur identity and become a great leader, but go out there, share this video with your friends, share this concept with your friends, with your colleagues, with your team members, and help them to become entrepreneurs so they can take their life to a greater level of leadership, to a greater level of entrepreneurship, and they own what's around them so that they not only make their life a better place, a better life to live for, but they even make this world a better place to live for. All right? Great. So thank you so much. Have a great day. And thank you very much. Tune in for the next video very soon, next Friday, because that's going to be of law of attraction in Hindi. Remember that. Whatever views you have about this video, remember to comment that below. Right? Ask questions. Whatever you want me to make videos on leadership in the next video, put some questions over there, put some comments over there, and like the video if you did, and subscribe so that you get the notification wherever I add the next video. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.